Hi there, and welcome to this short tutorial on the administrational and financial aspects of ERASMUS KA2 projects. I will give you a lot of tips and show you how to mainly fill in key documents regarding to the KA2 projects and its reporting. We have developed, as you know, manual. I can show you an example here. This is the project management and administration manual of a project called Songs for Rights, but Songs for Change. But we basically adapt this manual to each KA2 project, and it's in terms of its key rules and guidance. It's really very similar, and the tips I'm giving you today apply to this project, but also to other KA2 projects. So I can just show you quickly the structure of this guide. This is really the key tool when it comes to administration and project management of a KA2 project. So it's basically a mixture of really hands-on tips and also really key rules when it comes to financial aspects and reporting, and we have basically put this together and made it customer friendly, because as you know, there's a lot of documents and regulations formulated sometimes in a very complicated manner and on hundreds of pages. So we try to really focus on the key elements and to give, as I said, hands-on tips. So the structure of this manual, which remains, as I said before, the key tool of the management of a KA2 project. And this tutorial here is just added value and mainly focused on the how to fill in some key documents. So as what I want to say in terms of structure is that we have first here the key documents listed, and then also all the contracts, of course, the general conditions, the annexes of the contract, etc. And then what we do in terms of structure is we focus the structure of this manual, but also of the key documents to be filled in and to be sent to us when it comes to the reporting. We base this on the cost categories. So the first one is project management, and I can show you maybe a budget. So you see these cost categories reflected. So the first in this budget, as you can see here, is project management. And in the manual, you will find tips in terms of project management and key documents related to this cost category. So I'm going to go through this quickly, just to show you the structure. And later we dive into these documents and how to fill them in. So you see even here tips in terms of recruitment of young people for the projects, which is also part of project management. What does project management actually entail in terms of activities? Then you have in terms of reporting, what kind of documents to hand in. You have here the direct links to the templates, the documents we have prepared, which are actually just to be filled in by you. And it's these documents I will show you later how to fill them in. So you see here the next cost category, transnational project meetings. You have them here, transnational project meetings. They are usually called M1, M2, etc. You have a description in this manual about these meetings, what is going to happen there, some also rules around these meetings in terms of representatives who can come, who are eligible in terms of costs. Then you have here learning, teaching, training activities. Again, a key cost categories. You have it here. It's not exactly the same order, but you have them here. They are called C1 and C2 in the documents. And again, some general information and information related to key documents. Then you have the next is multiplier events. You have them also here in the budget. Again, description about the objectives, target groups, etc., and the key documents which have to be submitted in order to to claim costs and for important documents for the reporting. Then you have the category, cost category, project results. Project results you can see here in the budget. These are, they used to be called intellectual outputs, but they are called now project results in the Key Action 2 projects. And here again, in this project we have 4. So we have a toolkit, song creation series, a video tutorial series, and songs for change broadcast it's called. So they're described here in this manual, and again important rules around the reporting. For example, the timesheets which have to be filled in, and as I said, I show you later how to do it. Then you have general financial aspects from the key documents where to find rules, to specific rules around, for example, exceptional costs or other cost categories which are a little bit different to others, and then also special needs support and information about the budget, which you can see here on the right. This is a budget of the International Academy, which is our organization, and later we also dive into this budget a little bit deeper, and then you have the reporting at the end. There again we summarize all the key documents which have to be sent to us, the coordinator and lead applicant of the project, with explanations, and I think at the end we have some general tips. You can see here timesheet, expenditure lists, all these documents explained again, and at the end you have some useful tips. Again, this tutorial is not replacing this guide. This guide needs to be the key document for you to read and to understand. This tutorial is just added value and dives a little bit deeper into these documents and shows you how to fill them in. Okay, so here we have a document which is also on the Google Drive, which summarizes all the key documents in relation to the project, the Key Action 2 project, and these documents are also linked in the different sections of the project management and administration manual of each project. And here we have the list again, structured in the same way, then the budget, then the cost categories of the project. So we're starting here with project management, and the different documents to be handed in. So one is the project management assignment letter. I can show you one. The project management assignment letter is basically a letter where you as an organization, as a partner, declare how you spent this 250 euros of management fees, which is a lump sum every partner receives, and an easy way to claim how you spend that money is basically through this assignment letter. So what you do here is to just fill it in. You claim that you had 1 or 2 person working 1 to 2 days a week on this project, and this through the salaries of these people, usually the project managers, these 250 euros are absorbed by these 1 to 2 days of work per week. So you put the name of the person working on the project, the type of contract, the project is already filled in for you with the project number, the role, for example, project manager, and then the task are typical project management tasks, which you also find in the manual. What are typical project management tasks? So this would be, for example, the coordination of the local activities of the project, regular participation in the online meetings of the consortium, communication and dissemination around the project, etc. And then you just fill in, for example, you have 1 person or 2 people working 1-2 days a week on this project. It's signed and stamped, and that's it. So this is the project assignment letter. Attached to this, of course, you also prove that this person is person of working for the organization, and the easiest is to attach the employment contract. You can see here, and the payroll shows how much that person basically earns per month, and which then shows that 2 days per week, for example, 2 days of work per week would absorb these 250 euros. So this is the project management assignment letter, a very easy way to prove the expenditure of the 250 euros management fees. So let's now look at the second category here, the transnational project meetings, which are also called M1 and M2 in the projects. So here there is also a series of documents to be filled in and handed in. So there's the partner meetings declaration of internal staff, it's called. It's a very straightforward document where the legal representative of your organization basically states that the people who were sent to these meetings, usually they're at the very beginning and at the end of the meeting of the project, that these people who were sent are internal members of the organization, and they just put the name and the date when these meetings have taken place, and it's signed and stamped. So that's very straightforward document. Then we have also the participant list. Of course, this is for the organizer of the event, especially the lead organization of the project. This is typical. Here we go, participant list with everything is already filled in terms of course, the logo and the project numbers and all that. And the participants basically have to fill this in with their name, address, email, etc., all the data. They have to consent here that photos and videos are taken and later used for the promotion of the project. And then, of course, the signature, very important. This is a very important document to be able to claim the funding for each participant who comes to this meeting. What is also important for the participants of these meetings is to keep the boarding passes and send them to the lead organizer. This basically proves, with this participants list and the boarding passes combined, they really prove, these documents prove that the person was in that meeting. So the boarding passes are important. Travel insurances are also important, that people have a travel insurance when they come to the meetings. This is not a document which is sent to the European Commission, but if an inspector comes, they might want to see that the people who came to the meeting were insured. So these are the key documents for this cost category, transnational project meetings. Okay, so let's look at the documents linked to the next category, the category project results. So here you have a series of documents to be filled in and to be sent to us, and we will start with the declaration of internal staff. We already had one of those, but that was linked to the here you can see here to the project meetings. It's a document just for the legal representative to declare that the person who was sent to that meeting is an internal member of the organization. And here in the project results, it's also important, and here you have a quite similar document, declaration of internal staff. So the representative of the legal representative of the organization confirms that the person who has worked on these project results is an internal person, internal member of the organization. This is a very important document which needs to be linked also to the proof of this declaration, meaning if you declare that this is an internal member, you also have to attach the contract of that person, if it's an employee, or if it's a volunteer, the voluntary contract, if it's a person working on an honorary basis. Also, you need to prove that this is a person who works on a regular basis for your organization based on honorary contracts. So just to go back to the list, so these are this first one, the declaration, and then the document demonstrating this formal link between this person who works on the project results and your organization, as I just said, a contract or whatever confirms or demonstrates this formal link. Why is this important? Because the European Commission does not want the partner organization to subcontract this work on the project results. So this is very important that this is not somehow given to an external person of the organization, so subcontracted, or to a freelancer who is no formal link to the organization. You can read more about this in detail in the manual. There again, this is explained very thoroughly, and please, this is an important aspect. The next document here in the list is the workshop participant list. So when we all develop these project results, there is often testing involved, and usually testing, for example, of a handbook or tutorials we produce or other type of project results. We are testing this with young people, very often in the form of workshops, local workshops. And when you claim to have run a workshop on a certain date, and you put this in the timesheet, which I will explain to you in a minute. So then you also have to prove that this workshop was delivered by a participant list of the people who participated. I have here an example. It's the same then for the other event. So name, all the details, and signature. Very important to prove that you have run on this given date, which is featured in the timesheet, that you have run this workshop. Also important link to these workshops, through which you test the project results, is here the next one, the workshop evaluation report. Here is an example. Again, all these documents, remember, they are on the Google Drive we have created for each project. So here you have the questions through which you can evaluate and should evaluate each workshop you run with the young people. There are questions for the young people, there's questions for the trainers also, and we very often also create actually online surveys using these questions, so that people can actually answer these questions, these evaluation surveys online directly on their mobile phone, for example. So this is also important for us to then evaluate these workshop, and basically it's an essential part of the testing of these project results. Then we have the timesheet. This is a very important document, which I will show you now as well. This is where you insert, here it is, this is where you insert the working days and working hours you or each individual who has worked on the project results. This is where they insert their working days. So here is an empty timesheet. In a second I shall also show you one which is filled in. And so you have for example, for this project we had 4 project results. Whoops. The first one was a toolkit, and what you do here is to insert, for example, the number of working days, for example, 1 working day, which is here the equivalent of 8 hours, and on the date, let's say it was the 4th of May 2022, and then very important, you describe the work you have done on this project result, on this toolkit in this case. The description should be very quite detailed, not just writing or editing or work, but for example writing and editing of chapter 1 of the toolkit, for example. Also important in the description is that this description of the work needs to be purely linked to the production and development or testing of this project results. So a common mistake is that people write here, I prepared the group of young people before going to the blended mobility event, for example, or to the youth exchange. This is certainly work you do in the project, but it's not linked to the pure production and development of a project result, and therefore it cannot be claimed here in the timesheet. This is very important, and I will show you now in an example how such a timesheet is filled in correctly. Let me show you an example of a filled-in timesheet. This is an example of another project called Community Challengers. You fill in the details here on the top. left corner, so the start of the project, the end of the project. It is a timesheet from our organization, so it's in Germany, and here's the name of our organization and the PIC. And then, of course, the name of the person who worked on the project results. This is important that you have timesheets for every single person who worked on project results. Because then they're also individually signed by that person. The category is given, it's a teacher, trainer, researcher, and the unit cost also. So these unit costs vary from country to country. The mid-European, Central European countries like Germany have this rate or this unit cost, and then Southern European and Eastern European have different unit costs. So here the first project result in this project was a handbook. You can see here on the 11th of January that person had worked one full day, so 8 hours on this project result with detailed description, drafted the structure of the handbook, the objectives, expected outcomes, etc., etc. So you can see it's not just writing, or it needs to be a little bit more detailed, this description. Then you have a half a day here on the 1st of February, 4 hours, and the same with a detailed description. What is also important, because there's very often testing involved of project results. By testing, we often mean local workshops which are run in the different countries, and this is also part of the development of project results, and therefore this work of, for example, if you have a 2 days workshop or 1 day workshop, you put 1 day, the date, 8 hours, and you describe the work you did and the workshop you ran on that day. Very important that then when you run a workshop to test a project result, I mentioned this early on, that you have participant list of the participants who were in that workshop, and these dates have to match. So obviously you have to prove that you ran this workshop through this participants list. Another thing important, which is important about the testing and the workshop, is if you have 2 trainers, sometimes that's the case, only one trainer is paid to run the workshops. So if you have a 2 days workshop, for example, then you can claim that the first trainer did the first day of the workshop and the second day, but you can't get, you do not get money for 2 people to do the same work, so to speak, on the same day. So that would be a double funding. If that's the case, that you have 2 trainers, you have to split in the timesheet these days, because you, as I said, you only get the money for 1 trainer during 1 day, because otherwise they would say this is double funding. Also important at the bottom here, this timesheet needs to be signed by the person who filled it in, so the person who worked on these different project results, and also the legal representative. What I can show you also in relation to this is an example of a budget. Here is a budget, for example, our budget of our organization, where again, of course, you see the different cost categories, which is applied here in also in the different documents we are going through in this tutorial, and also in the manual, in the project management and administration manual. Why I'm showing this is because here in the they are called here intellectual outputs, but they're actually now called project results. So what you can see here, is the number of days you which were foreseen for each partner for each project result. So we get paid 7 days for the production and development of this first project results, and which is the handbook. We get 25 days for the community mapping tool, etc., etc. This is important to monitor and look at on a regular basis, so you know how many days you are eligible for funding, so to speak, and this is what you actually also reflect in your timesheets. So you know when you fill in the timesheet that you get paid a maximum of 25 days for the work on this second project result and a maximum of 20 days for the third one, etc. So this is it about the timesheet, and again in the administration and project management handbook there is also details about the different documents related to the production of project results. Let's look at the documents needed or documents related to the next category, which is the multiplier events. So as you know, the multiplier events are meant to disseminate and promote the project results and the project in general to potentially future users of these project results, potential disseminator and multipliers of this material we have developed in the project. And this is why it's important that the people invited are representatives of organizations. And this is very well reflected in the participants list, which is slightly different to the other participants lists. Here you can see we have a template for this, of course. You need to put the name, the gender, and then the name of the organization, very important, and the address of that organization. Of course, the consent for photos and videos, etc. If you have several people representing one organization, that's fine, as long as it's 1 or 2 people. Of course, 10 is in the case of 10 people of one organization. This is not each of the person is eligible for funding, because as you also know, the way this works financially is that the organization organizing this event receives 100 euros for each participant of the event. And this is why also important, if you have a school class and a teacher visiting or coming to your event with a class of whatever 10, 15 young people, then that is the teacher who signs this and who is eligible for this 100 euros, but not the 15 young people, because also they are not officially representing an organization who is a potential user or multiplier or disseminator of the project results. So important is the participants list, as I said, which gives you then the right to claim 100 euros per participant. Also important in relation to this event is the agenda. You need to hand in the agenda of the event, and in this agenda what is important is that you explicitly mention that the project results of this project were presented. So if you have 4 different project results, a toolkit, a tutorial series, etc., etc., these should be featured explicitly in the agenda, that they have been presented to the audience. because this is what it is all about, this presentation of this material. You should hand in the short report of well, what happened, what was this is linked to the agenda, of course, what was the program, who was also there in terms of what was the profile of the audience and the different people present, was there any media coverage, etc. So a short report. The promotional material and photos are also useful also for us to promote in terms of dissemination and promotion of the project. We then, or you or as well, of course, promote this in social media and also on the website of the project. And since you also get funding per participant, as I mentioned, also what is important is to hand in the invoices of the different costs you had for this event. And this can be the rental of a room, this can be a speaker, the catering maybe, the printing of promotional material like posters, for example, banners, etc. So here is also important to hand them in and to feature them in the expenditure list, which I will go through a little bit later. So these are the documents related to the multiplier event. All right, now we come to the next category and the related documents to this category: teaching, training and learning activities. They are called also C1 and C2. In this project, for example, there was one in Hernani and Utrecht in Slovakia and the Netherlands. And this first one, for example, was a training of trainers, the C1, and the C2 were the blended mobility for young people. What is important, of course, again, like for all events, you need a participant list. The participant list, I already showed it to you before. Here we go. The name, address, email, etc., all the details, and the signature and the consent for photo and video material. This is crucial, very important to put the date. They also need to be present on each of the days of this event, which are 5 days, travel not included. So the participants need to be present during these 5 days and also sign that they were there, and the second proof that they were there are, as we had before for the other partners meeting events, the boarding pass. So this is also important that you keep them and send them to us, which is a second proof that that person actually took the plane, for example, to come to that event. And of course, as you know, there are dates on these boarding passes, so this is a second piece of proof. For the host of the event, what's also important is to keep and send us the invoices for the subsistence. So that's hotel, that's the food and other costs related to the running of the event. In this case, it's the Slovakian and the Dutch partner who has to keep these invoices and send them to us. And also important that people who travel to this event, that they have a travel insurance. As a partner, also please keep this proof. It's not to be sent in for the reporting of with the EU Commission for the progress report or the final report, but it could be that an inspector later down the line wants to see this insurance. So please make sure that people traveling to the event also have a travel insurance. So this is already it for the for this C1 and C2 events. So let's go to the next category. Actually, I'm gonna explain you two categories now: the special needs support and the exceptional costs, because the documents linked to these two categories are very similar or nearly the same actually. So you see here three offers, and this is the case if your invoice exceeds 1,000 euros. The invoice for special needs support, and what is meant by this is for example like an accompanying person for a person with special needs who comes to a blended mobility event, for example. And for the exceptional cost, this could be an invoice for a translation of a handbook. So these are external service providers who have to be hired for this kind of work. And the three offers are important to get from different service providers, which then prove that you went for the best value for money. This is important when this invoice, as I said, exceeds the 1,000 euros. And additionally, what we also created is a template called Exceptional Cost Compliance Form. This was designed, I believe, by the German National Agency, and we translated it. It's here. It's you as an organization. Basically, you have to tick the different boxes. It's basically you as an organization confirming that you went for the best value for money, choosing this service provider for this given service. So as I said, for a translation of a handbook, or for if it's about a special needs support for the for example the accompanying person who accompanies this person with special needs during an event. So three offers combined with this form, which you just where you just tick the boxes and sign it as a legal representative of this the organization. And then of course the invoice of the service provider who did deliver the service, the translation or whatever it is, and also the proof of payment. And this needs to be, it's important, this will be sent with the progress report and the final report to the European Commission. So that it's not enough with the invoice, it also needs to be proved that the person was paid. And here again, as a rule, while for the project results production, as I mentioned, it is important to prove that the person who did this work is an internal member. Here, for this type of costs, special needs support and external costs, it needs to be external service providers, and it should not be internal members of your organization. So it's not allowed for example, an employee or a person who is on payroll of your organization to do, for example, the translation work. It needs to be subcontracted. So this is it about these two categories, special needs support and exceptional costs. All right, and now we come to the last category here, which is not really a category, they're just a list of other important documents to filled in and to hand in. So you have the first one here in the list, it's the declaration of the legal representative. You have here the example. So you put the letterhead of the organization, and it's the legal representative who fills this in and declares with this document that all the documents are originals, that you will keep as an organization these all the documents related to the project, during 5 years at your premises, that all the documents hand in are, well, as I said, originals and correct, and it's basically, yeah, the legal rep says and declares hereby that all the documents are in order and will be, as I said, kept at your organization, because of course there's always the possibility of an inspection. Then you have the expenditure list. I will go through it in a second. It's where we gather all the documents related to costs and expenditures of the project. The transfer request is also on the Google Drive. It's a document to be filled in to receive the first, second, third tranche of the basically, yeah, of your budget. As you know, there's in total a first tranche to be paid at the beginning of the project. This is also featured in the budget. Then there's a second tranche in relation to the progress report, once that one is approved by the national agency, and then there's a third tranche at the end of the project, when we have sent and when the final report has been approved by the national agency. And to receive that money, you basically have to fill in this transfer request so we can send the money to you. Also quite straightforward as a document. The two last ones, final narrative report, there is no template, but we will send you at the end of the project, and also probably there will be some narrative report linked to the progress report. So we will send you a series of questions we would like you to answer. They are about the impact, the local impact, for example, of the project. Questions about the dissemination, how have we promoted and disseminated project results, how have we included young people in the project, lots of facts and figures, of course, how many people have been involved in the project, etc., etc. So this is a questionnaire we will send to you for the progress report and also the final report. The VAT return document is also here on the Google Drive. It's doesn't apply for most of you because it's about the return of VAT, and most of the organizations are non-profits, and it doesn't apply to them. Let me now talk you through the expenditure list, which is an important document. I show you a blank one first, and then show you also an example of an expenditure list which is filled in, as I did with timesheets. So of course you put the name of the organization, and then it looks maybe a bit complicated at the beginning, but once you get how to fill it in, it's not complicated, it's quite straightforward. What you do have is categories for the different expenditures, and the categories are the same than we use everywhere in the budget, in the admin guide, in this tutorial, etc. So you have these different categories: the project management, transnational project meetings, the project results, multiplier events, learning and teaching activities, and the exceptional costs. So you have these I1, I2, I3, etc., which need to be used in this budget item here as a code. All right. Then you have the date of the document and the invoice number, if there is an invoice number. you have then to describe what this expenditure was all about, the currency, the amount, of course, the exchange rate, if it applies. Usually for most of you it's in euro anyways, and then the unit, the full amount, and the payment method, so bank transfer, and also the date of the payment. Of course, this sounds, or this looks maybe complicated, but it's not so complicated. Let me show you an example. Here we go. Here you have an expenditure list which is filled in. So you have first here the I1, which is the management fees category, and for each month what is here filled in is the lump sum of the 250 euros your organization receives for the management fees. So for each month you see here January, February, March, etc. The amount, of course, 250 euros, and when it was paid, and of course it was here bank transfer. Then you have the category I3 here, which is intellectual outputs. Well, it's now called project results. Project results in the new Key Action 2 projects. Intellectual output is no longer used as a term. So you have a project result, as you can see here, project result 1, 2, 3, etc. And this is reflecting basically your timesheets. So this is where you claim or where you list basically in February we have worked 1 day on project result 1, and here's the amount, 173 euros. Then you have project result project results 1 again, in this is per month. Now in May you worked again on project result 1, this time 2 days, unit is 2, and this is then 247 euros, and this is where you do this per month. Here, for example, in this month, in August, on project result 2, you can see here PR2, you in August you worked 6 days, and this is here the amount 822 euros. So these dates or these numbers of the project results, the work on the project results, what I'm highlighting here in gray, is basically taken from the timesheets, and this is why the expenditure list and the timesheets are actually also in the same document. So on the server, on the Google Drive, you will find a document called expenditure list and timesheets, or timesheets and expenditure list. So there are different sheets in the same Excel document. So this is for the project results, and then you have other invoices, of course, linked to, for example, here we have I4, that was learning and teaching activity, and I think this is of an organization who has hosted this event, and they list here all the different expenditures they had for this event. So material for coffee breaks, lunch, coffee material, farewell dinner, etc., etc. Usually things are of course paid by bank transfer, but here apparently, for example, in the restaurants, in the dinners and stuff, this was paid by cash. So this is how you fill it in. if you need help, of course, we are there to guide you through this, but it's basically really listing every single expenditure you had for this project, and utilizing or using these different codes I1, I2, I3 for the different categories of expenditures. So this is it for the expenditure list, and as I said, if you need help with this, you can get back to us, no problem. So this is it for this tutorial. I hope this was useful. We went through the different documents quite quickly. This was also done intentionally. There is of course a lot of more detailed information in the administration and project management manual. So please read through this thoroughly and use it. And for any further question, we are of course there to help you with these documents and with the reporting and anything else. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.